I was actually watching a Jordan Peterson video recently, and he said that antisocial behavior shows up in men and women differently. Okay, so in men, antisocial behavior shows up in violence. They say when men get antisocial, they get very violent. Okay, and so how does it show up in women? Psychologists say it shows up in slander, reputation destruction, manipulation, and lies. And that's how women's antisocial behavior shows up in society. However, when men's antisocial behavior goes too far, men get reprimanded, they go to jail. So, stuff like that happens to them. When women get antisocial, they get TV shows. They get TV shows like the Real Housewives of something. And so women generally sit down and they watch women be anti-social. They watch them be manipulative. They watch them be slanderous. They watch them do all of this kind of stuff. And they get TV shows out of it. And so that behavior never gets checked, whereas men's real antisocial behavior gets checked. And what has happened to Russell Brand? Okay. Russell Brand, his reputation has been slandered. That's what's happened. He's just been slandered. So, this is very antisocial behavior. If there was an accusation, people should have gone to the police. That's what I personally believe. People should have gone to the police and not tried to slander a man and drag him through the dirt. So, like I said, I'm getting ahead of the curve, guys. I'm getting ahead of the curve.
Female violent aggression doesn't work very well.
No.
First of all, girls tend not to fight physically with one another, and certainly girls can't fight. Girls can fight with boys because there's not much difference between girls and boys, say, before puberty in terms of physical strength. But once puberty hits, women can't compete in the physical aggression domain, and they're not inclined to either, because they could use guns and knives, but they tend not to. But women have their own underground means of stealing, and they steal reputation, and they're very good at it. And it's very many women and many other men as well who use this pattern of derogation and reputation enhancement.
And is this a scientific fact?
Yes, absolutely. This is a well-developed psychiatric literature stemming back decades.
Right.
You know, I've talked about this publicly several times, and the journalists I talk to are always stunned that how could I possibly propose such a thing? It's like, well, there's a 50-year literature on it. Just because you don't know it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. Yeah. And it's reputation savaging and derogation. Mean Girls, you can't play with us. You can't sit with us. No, and that's simultaneously a self-elevation and also a derogation of the other. It's very effective and very pernicious and extremely difficult to control. Like, what do you do about it? If you're a girl and you're isolated and shamed in that way, what can you do? You can't really use recourse to authority, because if you go tell a teacher, let's say you're being picked on in junior high, then you're just laughed at because you can't handle your own battles. Well, I'm sure that you've met women in your life that acted towards you in a bullying and detestable manner. It's very difficult for women to cope with that because they don't have any real recourse. And female bullying can be unbelievably vicious, and usually that takes the shape of reputation destruction, innuendo, and gossip. It's well documented. It's very difficult to defend. Men do it too, but men no. But
sorry,
the patterns,
disproportionately women, in your view, or not? Sorry.
Yes, disproportionately women. That's what the data indicate. I mean, if
But
men
where
are...
is the data on innuendo and gossip?
Well, it's among antisocial behavior among adolescents. It's a well-documented field. So because people look at aggressive and antisocial behavior in women and in men. And in women, it tends to take the expression of innuendo, gossip, and reputation destruction. And in men, it tends to take the form of outright physical aggression. There's a whole literature on that. It's not a surprise to anyone. This has been known for 30 years. I mean, the rates of antisocial...
I think the idea of the female gossip probably predates 30 years.
Well, it does.
By a long time, but that doesn't make it gospel,
but
really,
people
does it?
No, it doesn't. But people have looked at how women express... Look, women have to express aggression somehow, unless you're willing to say that they're not aggressive. They tend not to do it physically. not to the degree men do, so they use other channels. And what other channels are there other than physical aggression if you're going to be aggressive? Well, you go after people verbally. You go after them with innuendo and gossip and reputation destruction. And that's how it works.
And just to be clear, that you think that's predominantly a female modus operandi?
It isn't that I think that.
Well, I'm
it's that
asking
the
you.
clinical literature indicates that. It isn't that I think it.
Well, I'm not interviewing the clinical literature. I'm interviewing you. What do you think?
Well, I'm a psychologist and a scientist,
You
and
can
I
cite
tend to base my opinions on what I've read in the broad, relevant clinical literature. I'm not making this stuff up. I studied antisocial behavior for like 15 years. I'm actually quite an expert on it.
Women have to display aggression in some way. They have to. Men display aggression. Women display aggression, according to psychologists, with slander, lies, manipulation, and reputation destruction. That's how they display their anger. So when a woman's on the internet trying to slander and reputation destroy somebody, for me, I sit back and I'm like, yo, I'm not just going to go there, because when you go and look at, like I said, when you go and look at women's choices of what they watch on TV, and you see the Real Housewives of this and this other show and Love and Hip Hop and blah, 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 they sit down and they wait and they watch to see other women disrespecting each other, slandering each other, trying to destroy other people's reputations, trying to manipulate, trying to lie. And then women come out and say, oh, believe all women. I'm sorry, what? You as a woman know women are lying, manipulating, and you watch them each week doing it. You know that they're about reputation destruction. You watch them each week doing it. As a matter of fact, you get high off that. You watch it, and then you call your girlfriend up and you say, girl, did you hear about what? Did you see what so-and-so did? Yeah, she's this, she's that, she's a bitch, she's this, she's that. Yeah, she's a lie. So you know women lying, you know they're manipulative. And then you have the gall and the audacity to come on the internet and say, believe all women. When you know women are liars, you know they're manipulators, you know they're reputation destroyers. You watch it every day on your shows. You know how they can act. But then you want people to just believe you. You must be out of your goddamn mind.